Broken heart, sorry, I can't. Jungkook's words broke Jimin's heart and left him crying in the middle of the crowd. A heartbreaking confession shatters Jimin's world when Jungkook says the words he never expected to hear in front of everyone. The applause echoed through the brightly lit hall, but Jimin heard none of it. All he could hear were the 6 words that had just left Jungkook's trembling lips. Sorry. I can't do this, Jimin. The world seemed to freeze. The golden lights hanging from the ceiling blurred before Jimin's eyes. Hundreds of faces turned toward them, their expressions shifting from excitement to confusion in a matter of seconds. Jimin stood motionless. His fingers were still wrapped around the small velvet box he had been holding, a box that suddenly felt heavier than anything he had ever carried. The room had been filled with laughter only moments ago. Now it felt suffocating. Jungkook lowered his gaze, his jaw tightened. His hands shook slightly at his sides. For a brief second, Jimin hoped he had misheard. Maybe Jungkook was nervous, maybe this was some kind of misunderstanding, maybe, but then Jungkook took a step backward, and that single step shattered every remaining hope. A collective gasp swept through the crowd. Jimin felt his chest tighten painfully. Jungkook, he whispered. The younger man refused to meet his eyes. That hurt even more, because Jungkook had always looked at him, no matter how angry, no matter how tired. No matter how complicated things became, Jungkook always looked at him, until now. The silence stretched endlessly, Jimin's vision blurred. His heart pounded so violently that it felt impossible to breathe. Months, years, every memory flashed through his mind. Late-night conversations, shared dreams, promises exchanged under city lights, moments when Jungkook had smiled at him as though nobody else existed. Had all of that meant nothing? The crowd watched nervously. Nobody dared to move. Nobody dared to speak. Jimin swallowed hard, his voice cracked. Can you at least tell me why? The question hung in the air. Jungkook closed his eyes. For a moment he looked as though he was fighting a battle nobody else could see. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded broken. Because I don't want to hurt you anymore. Jimin frowned. The answer made no sense. What are you talking about? Jungkook's fists clenched. A painful expression crossed his face, the kind of expression someone wore when carrying a secret for too long. You deserve better. Jimin let out a shaky laugh, a laugh that sounded dangerously close to sobbing. Don't decide that for me. The words came out louder than he intended. Several people shifted uncomfortably nearby, but Jimin didn't care anymore. His carefully planned evening was already in ruins. His heart was already breaking. What else was left to lose? Look at me, Jungkook. Slowly, reluctantly, Jungkook raised his head. Their eyes met. And Jimin immediately noticed something terrifying. Fear, not rejection, not disgust. Fear, pure fear. Jimin's anger faltered because he knew Jungkook better than anyone. And the man standing before him looked terrified, not of Jimin, but of something else, something hidden, something dangerous. Tell me the truth, Jimin whispered. Jungkook's breathing became uneven. He glanced around the crowded room, at the cameras, at the guests, at the people watching, then he shook his head. I can't. Answer felt like another knife twisting into Jimin's chest. Tears finally escaped. Warm trails running down his face. He hated crying in public, always had. But tonight he couldn't stop. The pain was too overwhelming. The humiliation too sharp. People lowered their eyes respectfully. Some looked away, others watched with sympathy. Yet none of them truly understood what was happening between the 2 men standing at the center of the room. Because even Jimin didn't understand. Not anymore. Jungkook took another step back, then another. Each step widened the distance between them. Each step felt irreversible. Jimin stared at him helplessly. Was everything a lie? Jungkook immediately shook his head. No. Answer came without hesitation, too fast, too honest, and somehow that made everything hurt worse. Because if it wasn't a lie, then why was Jungkook walking away? Why was he abandoning them? Why was he looking at Jimin as though saying goodbye forever? The tears wouldn't stop. Jimin felt exposed, broken, lost. For years he had been the strong one, the one who smiled through pain. The one who protected others. But tonight his strength had finally collapsed, and everyone could see it. Jungkook looked devastated, his eyes glistened. His shoulders trembled, he looked just as shattered. Yet he continued stepping away, as if forcing himself to leave despite every instinct screaming otherwise. That was when Jimin noticed something strange. A man standing near the back exit, someone unfamiliar, someone watching Jungkook closely. The stranger's expression remained cold, unreadable. Jungkook's gaze briefly flickered toward him, only for a second, but Jimin caught it. And suddenly pieces that didn't fit began to appear. Fear, secrecy, panic, the strange man, Jungkook refusing to explain. The realization struck Jimin like lightning. Something was terribly wrong. Jungkook wasn't rejecting him because he didn't care. He was hiding something serious enough to destroy them both. Jimin wiped his tears roughly. His heartbreak remained. The pain remained. But beneath it, a new emotion emerged. Determination. Because the Jungkook he knew would never walk away without a reason, not like this. Not after everything they had survived together. Jungkook turned toward the exit. The crowd slowly parted, a pathway opening before him. For one final moment he stopped. Without turning around, he spoke softly, so softly that only Jimin could hear. "I wish things had been different." Then he walked away. The doors closed behind him, and the sound echoed through the silent hall like the final note of a tragic song. Jimin stood alone, tears streaming down his face. His heart shattered into countless pieces. Yet deep inside, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't the end of their story. Because the sorrow in Jungkook's eyes had revealed something more powerful than rejection. It had revealed a secret. And sooner or later, Jimin was going to uncover it. The doors had been closed for nearly 10 minutes. Yet Jimin still stood in the same spot. The crowd around him slowly returned to life, whispers spreading through the hall like ripples across dark water. Conversations resumed in hushed tones. Chairs scraped against the floor. Someone quietly turned off the music that had been playing before everything fell apart. But to Jimin, the world remained silent. His fingers tightened around the velvet box. The ring inside suddenly felt meaningless, a symbol of a future that had vanished before it could even begin. "Jimin," a familiar voice called gently. He turned and saw several worried faces approaching him. Friends, people who cared, people who wanted to help, yet at that moment, he couldn't bear anyone's sympathy. "I'm okay," he lied. Nobody believed him, not even himself. His chest still ached. His eyes burned from crying. Every memory of Jungkook's expression replayed endlessly inside his mind, especially that look of fear. The more Jimin thought about it, the less sense everything made. Jungkook had looked devastated, not relieved, not indifferent. Not like someone rejecting a person they no longer loved. Something else had happened, something hidden, something terrifying. The thought refused to leave him. Eventually the guests began leaving, one by one. The grand hall emptied. The bright light seemed colder now, lonelier. Jimin finally forced himself to move. His legs felt weak, exhaustion settled heavily over him. Outside, the night air greeted him with unexpected chill. The city stretched endlessly before him. Neon lights reflected across rain-soaked streets. Cars passed by in blurred streaks of color. Everything looked normal. And yet his world had completely changed. He reached his car and sat behind the wheel. For several moments, he simply stared ahead. Then his phone vibrated. His heart immediately jumped Jungkook. But when he looked down, disappointment crashed over him. It wasn't Jungkook. It was an unknown number. The message contained only 3 words. "Stop looking deeper." Jimin froze. A cold sensation ran through his body. He read the message again and again. His pulse quickened. Who sent this? How did they know what he was thinking? Another vibration followed. A second message appeared. "Your own safety." Jimin's hands tightened around the phone. The fear he had seen in Jungkook's eyes suddenly returned to him. Only now he understood that fear wasn't imaginary. It was real. Someone was watching. Someone knew. Someone wanted him to stay away. Instead of frightening him into silence, the messages only strengthened his resolve. Because innocent people didn't receive warnings like this. And Jungkook wasn't the kind of person to destroy someone's heart without a reason. There had to be an explanation. There had to be. The next morning arrived after a sleepless night. Jimin had barely rested. His apartment felt unusually empty. Every room reminded him of Jungkook. The coffee mugs they had bought together, the photographs, the small gifts exchanged during happier days, even the scent lingering in the living room hurt. Jimin sat on the couch staring at his phone. No calls, no messages, nothing from Jungkook. Hours passed. The silence became unbearable. Finally, he made a decision. If Jungkook wouldn't talk to him, he would find answers himself. The first place he visited was Jungkook's apartment. The familiar building stood quietly beneath cloudy skies. Jimin's heart pounded as he entered. He already knew the security staff. Several recognized him immediately. "Good morning." Receptionist smiled politely. Jimin forced a smile back. "Has Jungkook been here today?" The receptionist hesitated. No, his stomach sank. "When was the last time?" The receptionist looked confused. "Actually." She checked her records. "He moved out yesterday." Jimin blinked. "What?" The woman nodded. He cleared everything. For several seconds, Jimin simply stared. Yesterday, the same day Jungkook rejected him, the same day everything collapsed. He had planned this, all of it. Jimin rushed upstairs anyway. The apartment door stood open, empty, silent, cold. The rooms contained nothing, no furniture, no personal belongings, no signs that Jungkook had ever lived there. The emptiness felt unnatural, as though someone had erased his existence overnight. Jimin slowly walked through the apartment. His footsteps echoed. Then something caught his attention, near one corner of the bedroom floor. A small folded piece of paper, hidden beneath a loose floor panel. His pulse accelerated. He quickly picked it up. The handwriting was unmistakable, Jungkook's. Jimin unfolded it carefully. Only a single sentence had been written. "Sorry for what I'm about to do." A sharp pain struck his chest. Beneath the sentence was a date. 3 months ago. Jimin stared at it. 3 months. Jungkook had known something was coming for 3 months. 3 months of pretending everything was normal. 3 months of carrying a secret alone. Suddenly Jimin remembered something. 3 months earlier, Jungkook had started changing. Tiny things at first. Late-night phone calls, moments of distraction. Dark circles beneath his eyes, the forced smiles, the unexplained disappearances. At the time, Jimin assumed stress was the cause. Now he realized those changes weren't random. They were clues, and he had missed every single one. As he stared at the note, his phone rang, an unknown number. His instincts screamed at him not to answer, but he did. "Hello," silence, then breathing slow, deliberate, a distorted voice finally spoke. "If you care about Jungkook." Jimin's entire body tensed. "Who are you?" The voice ignored the question. "Leave this alone." "What happened to him?" Silence returned. Then came an answer that made Jimin's blood run cold. "He's trying to save your life." The call ended. The screen went dark, and for the first time since that terrible night, Jimin realized the truth might be far more dangerous than heartbreak. Because whatever secret Jungkook was protecting had already begun pulling Jimin into its shadow.
Jimin stared at the dark screen long after the call ended. The apartment around him felt colder than before. The stranger's words echoed relentlessly inside his mind. "He's trying to save your life." Save his life from what? And why would saving him require breaking his heart in front of hundreds of people? Nothing made sense. Yet the fear in Jungkook's eyes now seemed even more real. Jimin slipped the handwritten note into his jacket pocket and slowly looked around the empty apartment once more. There had to be something else, something Jungkook had missed, or perhaps something he had intentionally left behind. His gaze swept across the bare walls, the vacant shelves, the silent rooms, then something caught his attention. A faint scratch mark on the wooden floor near the balcony. Jimin approached carefully. The mark looked recent, almost as though heavy furniture had been dragged away. He crouched down. A small metallic object reflected the afternoon light. A key, tiny, silver. Unlike any apartment key he had ever seen, attached to it was a faded black tag, no address, no explanation, only 3 handwritten numbers: 217. Jimin frowned. "What is this, Jungkook?" His heartbeat quickened. The key felt important, deliberately hidden, deliberately left behind, as if Jungkook wanted him to find it. But why? Hours later, rain poured heavily across the city. Thunder rolled above the skyline. Jimin sat inside his car, staring at the mysterious key resting in his palm. His exhaustion was beginning to catch up with him, but every answer seemed to create even more questions. Then suddenly another memory surfaced. 3 months ago. The same period written on Jungkook's note. They had been driving home after dinner. Jungkook had accidentally dropped a receipt while searching for his wallet. Jimin remembered teasing him about being disorganized. At the time, Jungkook had looked strangely nervous and immediately grabbed the receipt before Jimin could read it. A tiny detail. One that had seemed insignificant. Until now, Jimin opened his phone and searched through old photographs. He often photographed random moments, food, friends, road trips, everything. After nearly 20 minutes, he found it. A blurry image taken inside the car. Jungkook was laughing. Half of the mysterious receipt was visible on his lap. Jimin zoomed in. The image quality wasn't perfect, but one word remained readable: harbor. His eyes widened. The city's old harbor district. A place filled with abandoned warehouses and storage buildings. Suddenly the key felt heavier. Warehouse 217, Storage Unit 217. It couldn't be a coincidence. The rain intensified. Without hesitation, Jimin started the engine. The harbor district looked completely different at night. Fog drifted between old industrial buildings, rust-covered abandoned shipping containers, dim streetlights flickered above deserted roads. The atmosphere felt unsettling. Like a forgotten corner of the city where secrets preferred to hide, Jimin parked near a row of agging warehouses. His windshield wipers moved rhythmically as rain hammered against the glass. He checked the key again. 217. The numbers seemed to stare back at him. One building after another came into view. 205, 206, 207. Then finally 217. A chill ran through him. The warehouse stood isolated from the others. Its windows were dark. Its exterior weathered by time and storms, no signs, no lights, no people, yet something about it felt wrong. Jimin stepped out into the rain, the cold water soaked through his clothes instantly, thunder rumbled overhead. He approached the entrance. The old metal door was secured with a lock that perfectly matched the silver key. For several seconds he hesitated, every instinct warned him to walk away, the threatening messages, the mysterious phone call, Jungkook's desperate behavior. All signs pointed toward danger, but his need for answers was stronger. Taking a deep breath, Jimin inserted the key. Click. The lock opened, the sound echoed loudly in the silence, his pulse accelerated. Slowly he pushed the door open. Darkness greeted him. The smell of dust and old wood filled the air, rainwater dripped from the ceiling in distant corners. Jimin activated his phone flashlight. The beam swept across the massive interior, rows of crates, covered furniture, forgotten equipment. And in the center of the warehouse, a desk. A single desk illuminated by a small battery-powered lamp. As if someone had recently been there, Jimin approached cautiously. Every footstep echoed, his heart pounded harder with each second. Then he noticed the photographs, hundreds of them spread across the desk. His breath caught. Every photograph was of him, Jimin walking to work, Jimin shopping, Jimin meeting friends. Jimin entering his apartment, weeks, months, possibly years of surveillance, his stomach twisted. Someone had been watching him, closely, systematically, relentlessly. At the center of the photographs lay a thick folder. Jimin opened it. Inside were documents, reports, names, addresses, schedules, and one familiar name appearing repeatedly. Jungkook, page after page, everywhere. Whatever this was, Jungkook had been connected to it, or trapped inside it. Then Jimin found a handwritten letter. His hands trembled as he unfolded it. The first line immediately stole the air from his lungs. If you're reading this, it means I failed to protect you. Jungkook, the letter was from Jungkook. Rain continued pounding against the warehouse roof. The sound seemed distant now, because Jimin's entire world had narrowed to the words written on that page. And with every sentence he read, he began realizing that the nightmare surrounding them was far larger than either of them had imagined. Jimin's hands trembled as he gripped the letter. The warehouse seemed to disappear around him. The sound of rain, the distant thunder. The cold air, everything faded. Only Jungkook's handwriting remained, familiar, painfully familiar. The same handwriting Jimin had seen on birthday cards, small notes left on the refrigerator and messages scribbled onto coffee cups during happier days. Now those same letters carried something much darker. He swallowed hard and continued reading. If you're reading this, it means I failed to protect you. Jimin's chest tightened. I know you're angry. You have every right to be. I know I broke your heart, and I know you'll never understand why I did it. But if I had told you the truth, they would have come after you immediately. A cold shiver ran down his spine. They again, the mysterious they. Invisible enemy that seemed to haunt every clue. Jimin continued. 3 months ago I made a mistake. I trusted the wrong person. The words blurred for a moment as emotion flooded through him. At first I thought I could handle it alone. I thought I could fix everything before it touched you, but I was wrong. The deeper I got, the more dangerous it became. Jimin lowered the letter briefly. His breathing had become uneven. For months Jungkook had been carrying this burden alone, while smiling, while pretending everything was normal. Planning dinners and sharing ordinary days. The realization hurt almost as much as the rejection itself. He returned to the letter. People watching us don't care who gets hurt, they only care about keeping their secrets hidden. When they realized how important you are to me, you became their weakness against me. Jimin's eyes widened. The photograph suddenly felt even more disturbing. Every picture spread across the desk represented a threat, evidence, a warning someone had been studying his life. Watching every move, tracking every routine, and Jungkook had known all this time. A sharp ache spread through Jimin's chest, not because he felt afraid, because he imagined how terrified Jungkook must have been, facing all of this alone, trying to protect him without revealing the truth. The next line nearly broke him. Walking away from you was the hardest thing I've ever done. Jimin closed his eyes. For a moment, tears threatened to return. The memory of that night flashed before him. Jungkook stepping backward. Refusing to explain, the heartbreak in his eyes. Now everything looked different. Now he could finally see the pain hidden behind the rejection. His hands tightened around the paper. If you're reading this, then I may already be gone. Jimin whispered immediately. The word escaped before he could stop it. No, he refused to believe that. Refused. He kept reading. But if there's still time, don't come looking for me. Jimin laughed bitterly, a hollow, exhausted laugh that was impossible. Jungkook should have known better. After everything they had been through, there was no universe where Jimin would simply walk away. Not now, not after discovering the truth. The final paragraph waited at the bottom of the page. The ink appeared slightly smudged, as though written in a hurry or perhaps through tears. Once told me that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing someone despite the fear. I never forgot that. Jimin felt his throat tighten. He remembered saying those words years ago, a random conversation. A random evening, one insignificant moment he had nearly forgotten. Jungkook had remembered every word. No matter what happens, remember this, I never stopped choosing you. Letter ended there, no signature, no goodbye, just silence. Jimin stared at the page, his vision blurred. For several long minutes he couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe properly. The truth hurt, but it also healed something. Because for days he had believed Jungkook no longer wanted him. Now he knew otherwise. Jungkook had sacrificed their relationship to keep him alive. That realization changed everything. Suddenly a faint sound echoed somewhere inside the warehouse. A metallic clang. Jimin froze. The noise hadn't come from outside, it had come from inside the building. Someone else was there. His pulse accelerated instantly. Slowly he lifted his head. The warehouse had seemed empty before, now it felt enormous. Dark shadows stretched between stacks of crates. The weak desk lamp flickered. Silence returned. Then another sound. Footsteps, slow, measured, approaching. Jimin immediately folded the letter and slipped it into his jacket. Every instinct screamed danger. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Whoever was there wasn't trying to hide. The figure emerged from the darkness at the far end of the warehouse, tall, dressed entirely in black, face partially obscured beneath a hood. Jimin's muscles tensed. The stranger stopped several meters away, neither spoke. Rain hammered against the roof overhead. The silence felt unbearable. Finally, the stranger removed the hood. Jimin's breath caught. He recognized the face, not because he knew the person personally, but because he had seen him before at the proposal, standing near the exit, watching Jungkook, the same man, the same cold eyes, the same unsettling presence. The stranger studied him calmly, then his gaze shifted toward the letter hidden inside Jimin's jacket. A faint smile appeared, not friendly, not warm, dangerous. You found it, the man said quietly. Jimin's heart pounded. Who are you? The stranger ignored the question. Instead, he looked around the warehouse, at the photographs, at the documents, at the evidence spread across the desk. Then he returned his attention to Jimin. Jungkook was hopping you'd never see any of this. The words sent another chill through him. Jimin stepped forward, anger replacing fear. Where is he? For the first time, the stranger's expression changed. Something almost resembling pity crossed his face, almost, then he spoke. And the answer made Jimin's blood run cold. Asking the wrong question. Jimin stared at him. The stranger took a slow step closer, his eyes never leaving Jimin's. Real question is whether Jungkook is still alive.
Jimin's entire body froze. The warehouse suddenly felt colder. The stranger's words echoed through the darkness. Whether Jungkook is still alive. For a moment fear threatened to overwhelm him, but then something inside him changed. For days he had been confused, heartbroken, lost. Now for the first time he understood exactly what mattered, not the rejection, not the humiliation, not even the secrets, only Jungkook. Tell me where he is. Stranger studied him quietly. Rain continued drumming against the roof overhead. Finally he sighed. Even now you're willing to risk everything for him. Jimin's answer came immediately, without hesitation. Man's expression softened slightly, not with kindness, with respect, as though he had finally confirmed something. For several seconds neither spoke. Then the stranger reached into his coat. Jimin instinctively tensed. Instead of a weapon, the man pulled out a folded photograph. He placed it on the desk. Jimin looked down. His heart nearly stopped. Jungkook, the photograph had clearly been taken recently. He looked exhausted. There was a bruise near his cheek, dark circles beneath his eyes, but he was alive. Jimin's chest tightened with relief. Where is he? He repeated. The stranger looked away briefly, as if wrestling with a decision, then he spoke. He's at an abandoned research facility outside the city. Jimin immediately turned toward the exit, but the stranger stopped him. If you go there blindly, you'll never leave. Jimin looked back. Then tell me how. Man stared at him for a long moment, then something unexpected happened. He smiled sadly. That's exactly why Jungkook wanted to protect you. Hours later, guided by the information he received, Jimin found himself standing before a forgotten building hidden among dense forests. The structure looked abandoned, broken windows, rusting gates, cracked concrete walls, yet faint lights glowed inside. Someone was there. His heart pounded as he entered. Every hallway felt endless. Every shadow felt alive. The deeper he went, the stronger his determination became. At the end of a long corridor, he found a metal door, partially open. Light spilled through the gap. Jimin pushed it open and stopped. Jungkook sat alone inside. For a second neither moved, neither breathed, neither spoke. The silence between them carried weeks of pain, months of secrets, years of love. Jungkook slowly stood, his eyes widened. Jimin! The sound of his voice nearly shattered Jimin's composure. Jungkook looked thinner, more exhausted, but he was alive. That was all that mattered. What are you doing here? Jungkook asked. His voice trembled. I told you not to come. Jimin laughed softly, a laugh mixed with tears. Since when have I ever listened to you? Jungkook stared at him, then lowered his head. The fight seemed to leave his body all at once. The walls he had built for months finally collapsed. I'm sorry, he whispered. The words broke. I'm so sorry. Jimin crossed the room. Neither cared about explanations anymore, neither cared about pride. The distance separating them disappeared, and for the first time since that terrible night they stood face to face without lies between them. "You idiot," Jimin said quietly, a tear rolled down his cheek. "You thought breaking my heart would protect me." Jungkook closed his eyes, his own tears finally escaped. "I didn't know what else to do." Jimin shook his head. "You should have trusted me." Younger man nodded slowly. "I know." Silence followed. Not uncomfortable silence, the kind shared by two people who understood each other completely. After everything that had happened, neither expected life to return to normal immediately. The wounds were still there, the fear remained, the memories would take time to heal, but something important had survived: trust, love, the bond that had endured even when everything else fell apart. Months later, the truth behind the dangerous network that had targeted Jungkook was exposed. The people responsible were brought to justice. The shadows that had haunted them finally disappeared. It wasn't easy. Recovery never is. Some scars remained invisible, some nightmares lingered. But day by day, life slowly became brighter again. One evening, beneath a sky painted with golden sunset colors, Jimin and Jungkook sat together overlooking the city. The wind carried the scent of summer flowers. The streets below glowed with warm lights. For a while they simply watched the horizon. Then Jungkook spoke. "You know, I still regret that night." Jimin smiled faintly. "I know. I wish I had handled everything differently." Jimin turned toward him. The pain from the past no longer felt sharp. It had become part of their story, a chapter they survived together. "What matters," Jimin said softly, "is that you came back." Looked at him, the fear that once filled his eyes was gone. Only warmth remained, only peace. For the first time in a long time, both of them felt free. The city lights shimmered beneath the darkening sky. The future remained uncertain, as it always would, but they no longer feared it, because they had learned something important through heartbreak, sacrifice, and forgiveness. Love was not measured by perfect moments. It was measured by the courage to stay, to return, and to choose each other again after everything had fallen apart. And this time neither of them planned to let go. Red.